guys, and welcome to the next Nerdling reviews for Continuum Season 2. This is going to be the second episode called Split Second. And I am your resident Nerdsby and Dooley, and this is Resident Ginger.
Ginger K.
So this particular episode, but this seemed to be focused more on, like, Travis in jail. Mm-hmm. So Travis is in jail. Sonia obviously wants to keep him in jail, or she wants him to die. One or the other. Garza, who is, like, best friends with Travis. I think it's like, you know, the tough guy and then the lesbian best friend. That's what I'm gonna go for. You know, they always have the gay friend for the girls. So where's the cool lesbian friend for the guys? I mean, I have guy friends.
Are you the cool lesbian
friend? Maybe. Well, I mean, to them, I think I am, because I like to talk about chicks and play video games.
So totally, yes.
So she wants to totally bust out her best friend dude in prison. Sonia's obviously like, no. Then we have Alec, right?
Right.
Alec's working at the Best Buy, pretty much, and is miserable. Mm-hmm. Kellogg shows up with his Prince Humperdinck hair. He asks Alec to join him in some kind of venture. He's like, you're a genius, and we should get together, and look, you work at a shit place to work, and people treat you like a janitor. And then they had to have the literal scene where somebody treats him like a fucking janitor, which kind of brings me back to the point that you made about the first season, how it's like, they don't ever spell anything out for you in the first season. Isn't that great? Isn't this such a great show? And season 2 shows up, and it's just like, you're like a janitor. Hey, let's write a scene where somebody spills a drink, and then they're like, aren't you going to clean this up? You know, so that he's like a janitor. Like, yeah, I get it. He's a janitor. Thanks, writers.
Because we didn't understand it until that moment. We have more to talk about with the actual episode, I get that, but I am going to stop for a second to talk about how the dialogue has gone downhill so far.
Dialogue was really terrible.
And so I would get distracted by very petty things like Kellogg's hair and the dialogue. I'm fixated on just how scenes could have been better.
But in the meantime, the plan for Travis, we're going to come back to Prison Break here for a minute. Sonia decides that the way that she's going to fix the Travis problem is to get some brotherhood, some, you know, Aryan Brotherhood guys to try to beat him up, which does seem kind of silly when you think about it, because he just took like 6 rounds to the chest and was alright. So he basically kills all of them. So Sonia realizes that these Aryan Brotherhood, they're going to be killed. He's going to be shipped off to some high security facility. And they decide, well, here, you know, clearly Liberate is going to be a danger. They're going to try to get Travis. We'll have 2 different things going on. We're going to have this fake transport that has all these guards, and everyone will think that that's Travis, but in reality, Carlos and Kira are just going to have Travis in their own little van. They have a really convenient red shirt that goes with them.
Of course.
Well, Liberate figures out that there is a second convoy, and then they send armed guards with, you know, AK-47s and a big truck after Carlos, and kill Red Shirt. Obviously, he dies pretty quick, which means that Kira now has to drive the van around, and this is
while 2 things are happening. One is right before the attack, Travis is talking about, oh, we're from the future, blah blah blah. Hey, Carlos, get a clue. And the second thing is really bad dialogue while that's happening.
Yeah. This episode, like, or at least this particular part of the episode, was basically just an attempt to be a really mediocre or below mediocre Hollywood blockbuster action movie.
Right.
Pretty much. Where the dialogue is terrible, the characters are just really in one outrageous chase scenario after another. where it's like, oh my god, and then there's guns, and then they shot the red shirt, and now I have to drive, and then
I'm gonna miss this train.
And then Carlos is in the back with the fighting, and now we're fighting and driving and crashing, and then they're shooting, and then, oh my god, it's a train, I know, we'll just make it just past the train, and then the other guy will be trapped, and then a fucking helicopter shows up, and you're just like, God, what is going, and then they're like, oh, we're in the middle of nowhere, and there's train tracks, and oh, now there's a tunnel, like, where are they, where there's all this industrial, like, tunnels, but they're in the wilds of Canada, like, where the hell are they?
Well, Canada.
So it really turned into this very bizarre kind of, in the middle of this really bad action film, where, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme should have showed up at one point.
Right.
Maybe, like...
Save the day.
Right, or you know, jumped out of the helicopter and, like, karate kicked somebody in the face.
Okay, so I do have a question, because I'm just not clear, and maybe because I was fixated on the horrible dialogue. So you've got, you know, the people that Sonia and Eyeglasses sent to...
That's his new name. Eyeglasses.
Eyeglasses. I couldn't figure out what their purpose was. I get, you know, Garza comes in and now they're split off.
Right.
So Garza comes in. The two people fighting for Travis are two different sides of Liberate. So now you have Eyeglasses and Sonia, and you have Garza who's like, well, fuck Sonia, she tried to kill Travis, so I'm going to go get Travis because he's my BFF. And so they're the two people who are trying to get Travis. Garza gets Travis.
Yeah.
And now the two are separate.
When they're trapped in the tunnel, and you've got the people in the car behind them, and Garza in the helicopter in front of them, and a guy comes out with like a bazooka or a rocket launcher, and they think, oh no, he's gonna kill us, or you know, Kira and Carlos think that, oh my god, he's got a grenade launcher, this is it, and he very obviously shoots the car that was chasing them and blows the car up.
Like it passes, like you know, the police truck, and it's very obvious.
It's very obvious that they were not trying to shoot the police truck, and Kira turns and looks at Carlos and says something like, "They weren't trying to hit us," or something.
Well, they were clearly not trying to hit us.
Yeah, she was like, "Well, they were clearly not trying to hit us." It's like, well. Yeah, thanks for telegraphing that to us, writers. Like, you're right, it was actually very clear I'm pretty sure
that they were not trying to kill
that they were not trying to shoot them by the way that you just showed us a scene in which they didn't fucking shoot them. Like, I got it. Thanks. It's like back to the janitor scene. Like, you're a janitor. Oh, I spilled a drink. Clean it up, janitor boy. Just in case you weren't sure about that metaphor we were doing earlier. And then it turns into the 80s cop show where they're in the captain's, or whatever he is. What is he? The lieutenant? I don't know, whatever he is. Boss guy. Bald boss guy.
Who always has bad dialogue or just doesn't deliver it well.
No, I think I think it's like 80s cop show.
It is. Actually, when it comes to him and writing him.
80s cop show. So, yeah. 80s cop show is, you know, in his office, and Kira's there, and Carlos is there, and Krychek's there, and it just turns into this, like, pissing match of dialogue that's really terrible.
It's clear we have a mole, and now let's all say really bad, cheesy things about who you think the mole.
Not gonna
80s cop show is now going to go over the top about, how dare you question the loyalty of my people, or whatever. Right, when really I don't know where she comes from either, and you're asking reasonable questions, but how dare you? I don't know, I am actually disappointed, because so far in the 2 episodes of this season, they have been spelling everything out. And, oh, you're not going to let me on my own think that maybe Krychek had something to do with what happened in order to frame the two of you? You're going to have that conversation? Okay. Carlos isn't going to ask more questions about anything?
No, it's that thing about you're not going to believe somebody if they really say that they're from the future.
Oh, no, totally. And you can see that he's sort of thinking, well, something is different, something. And he did ask the right questions, actually, in the fact of, why did he choose to put you in this? So he is realizing that there is some sort of connection.
Right, there's something.
She's clearly connected in some way.
Yeah.
I still think you might be a kook, but maybe you're onto something.
I think that right at the beginning, we have Kira talking with Alec about the future. And this is where I think the dynamic is going to start changing between these two, which is going to, if hopefully the writers will handle it very well, which is the fact that he's kind of like, wait a minute, the future's terrible because of me. I don't want to make that future.
Right.
And Kira is like, oh, no. You have to make that future because I want to go back to that future because I liked my life. I love my life. I want to go back to my life.
Because I really like Alec a lot. And I'm curious now, go back to the Kellogg friendship that Alec is starting to develop, how that's going to change Alec and if I'm going to just now find him a dickhead.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a good story arc where he maybe does become a dickhead for a while and then starts to realize, like, well, holy crap, what if Kellogg was there the whole time? And I'm already turning into the guy that
coming into this horrible future guy.
That wanted to change everything, and I'm already down that path.
I felt like it was a filler episode that didn't give us a lot, except maybe there's a mole.
Right.
I'm actually kind of already over that story.
In terms of the mole, it's like, okay, are they setting this up because Krychek is really the mole, or are they doing this because they're trying to be obvious? And it's like, oh, it's to Krychek, but secretly it's somebody else. It's like Tech Girl is the mole, or maybe 80s Cop Show is the mole. I'm hoping it'll at least be somebody like Tech Girl.
Right.
But see, to me that seems kind of obvious already, that it's Tech Girl.
It is obvious already because of the fact that it's not obvious. You thinking, well, it can't be Tech Girl because...
Because nobody's really talked to her about blah, blah, yeah. Whatever.
Right. Really, her only thing is crush on Carlos.
Right.
Which makes her actually kind of a candidate.
Well, I mean, nobody stood up and said anything about her in this particular episode, and since that was the way that they conveyed ideas to us...
so clearly it's not.
Right, clearly it's not her, because nobody said, maybe it's Tech Girl.
What's funny is actually with the way that this episode was written, it's totally Krychek.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want to take about what's happened so far, yes.
Yeah.
Krychek is clearly the mole, because they were like, maybe Krychek's the mole. Dun dun dun.
Right.
So this episode, not very great. Yeah. It just disappointing.
Yeah.
I think that it was worse than the last episode.
I was on the fence. I wasn't really sure which one I thought might be worse. I'll put them at, equal. I'll put them par with each other.
Fairly equal.
Yeah.
Like, did Michael Bay direct this episode? Because what's going on? Terrible dialogue, not a lot of story, over-the-top action sequences that just fill space and time as opposed to really do much. Okay, well that seems to be our review. We're both kind of meh, not that great, hoping it gets better kind of attitude about this particular episode. If you disagree, if you have anything that you want to say on this episode, please go ahead and leave some comments down below. But remember, Will Wheaton says, don't be a dick. Tune in next time, guys. Bye.